Okay, cool. So, ladies and gents, welcome to this live stream. I was just dealing with some stuff going on through the week. So, obviously, I sold the FX6 recently. Cam has also sold the FX6 recently. We've moved on to new systems. You guys are fully aware what Cam is rocking with. He actually, he has it in the back there. If you guys don't know about it, it's the Komodo X. And not for the same reasons. I'm going to turn off my email. Not for the same reasons that I actually picked it up. I also decided I did the same thing as well. So the A6700 thing, that was a little bit of a misdirect. I am still borrowing it. I have it right now. So I am using the A6700, but this is a loaner from Sony. So I am going to be borrowing it to teach more beginner type content. But this guy wasn't necessarily the reason why I bought it wasn't necessarily work related, but so I don't go on a big ramble. Cam, do you want to kind of go over why you guys picked, like, while you essentially picked up the Komodo X for your work?
Yeah, I'll go on a ramble. So, the FX6 was great, but once I tried the FX3, I was like, this is just as great and a little bit more useful for what I need the Sony's for, which is like run and gun, compact, one bag kind of thing. But I'm starting to push more into the like narrative space and more personal work. So with that, I wanted a camera that would let me expand on stuff like that. So with the raw, which is all the way you could rig it out, you could build teams out more on it. It's just a powerhouse. Like you don't see the difference until you start going into the color grade and you see when you do have to push the footage, the Komodo X just has so much space in it.
Yeah.
It's wild. Even like a simple grade, depending on just like what you're shooting, it just has a look to it where you can match the Sony to it, but it's mainly just that raw that it has in there. Just has a there's a thickness to that file.
Yeah. And I had the OG Komodo last year. Like I had it for a month on a rental exchange, and I when I was using it, I was like the image looked insane. It was really really good, and like it was not such a vastly big difference from the FX6, but you like it has a bit more thickness. Like you can push a grade a little bit more. But my biggest problem with it was like it's not made as an A camera, and I was like, I don't like I want to love this thing so bad. I want to join the red conglomerate of people that like always like preach that type of camera system, but I couldn't because I'm like I need XLR audio, and like the fact that I need like an adapter to put on a battery that like to put other accessories on it. I'm like, that just it sounded like a lot of work. And I'm like, you know what? If they ever made a camera, screw autofocus. Like I could figure it out if I don't have to, if I have to. If I could have a camera that does that but also has R3D, I'm picking that up, no problem, no questions asked. And then well, the Komodo X came out, and then it was right around the time where like I would like I feel like I shot everything I need, like from like doc stuff, commercial stuff, like working with different fitness brands. And unfortunately now I think, or fortunately, who knows, I'm like priced out of that industry. It's like it's a, and for you guys that are kind of asking about like fitness content and stuff like that and working with brands, like you either have to be like really good at volume, or you got to like luck out at like the top 5% of brands that'll actually like pay you a decent rate. I was good at volume, and then I went from one to the other, but then like I'm generally priced out of both. But now, picking up the X, it wasn't really, it's not a work camera, if that makes any sense. Like it is going to make my work better when I take on those freelance gigs. But I also found, and I don't know if you found this, but like I've always ever bought equipment and camera gear to satisfy somebody else's needs. Like I've never bought anything because like I wanted it. I've always bought it because I'm like, oh well, like a client's gonna do that, or I'm gonna get this job, or I'm gonna be able to apply to this whatever. I'm like, nah, man, like why don't you just buy something that like you want, and then you don't have like then you can make what you want to make where you don't necessarily feel limited. And like plus having like a YouTube and being able to do this like a lot more on the full-time side of things, it's easier for me to kind of transition into that a little bit easier. So that's kind of why I bought it. It's not necessarily a camera that I think I'm going to get a bunch of clients from, but it's something where I'm like, you know what, like I want to buy something that's like mine, not something that's for somebody else.
Yeah, I mean, to go with that too, like I'm transparent. I'm trying to go full time on YouTube. The hard part is with my day work, I make six figures a year off
Yeah.
of it. So in order for me to transition, that's a big gap to fill.
Yeah.
So just as you're saying, like this is a camera for me, for like me to pursue a bigger goal, and I'm using YouTube as a transition to the narrative world as well.
Yeah.
So this camera I'll build a grow like this is for the price point, this is. I remember going on gigs and I was doing the stills, so shooting like fashion campaigns, and the videographers would come with like their giant red cameras and stuff, and I'd be like, oh, one day I hope I can afford something like that.
Yeah.
Now we have something that we can afford like that. That's even better than the cameras they were using before. It's wild.
Yeah, it's insane. Like it's so cool that like you don't have to spend 50 grand to get something that looks that good. And like I think my freelance space, like it was getting up into the sixes, but I'm like like it was so volatile, right?
Yeah,
Like you could
yeah,
have a retainer client that's doing everything you need to one day, and then next day they're like, oh, we're gonna save a bunch of money, we're gonna leave. And like getting into the whole like the economic turbulence and stuff like that. My whole thing was like, you know what? Like if we're going to have if we're going to go through a global recession or whatever the case might be, the last time that happened was where some people like in the YouTube space blew up because there were so many people like learning how to use the different types of skills and equipment and whatever. So I'm like, you know what? You live cheaply enough now. Like I moved. It's far easier for me to kind of pursue that and go full in because I don't need a big income for the next couple months and in the back end, I could work on the YouTube channels to where sometimes doing sponsored videos are like the same as me working a DP gig sometimes, right?
yeah,
And like if I can get that to the frequency of where I was shooting, then I don't have to go through so much red tape creatively in terms of going through like producers and making sure the directors are okay and going through all of that stuff. I don't have to. And at the same time, at a certain point when it passes it, now anything that comes in I just put towards whatever I want to make necessarily, right? Like there's a new video I have to do for a product that's coming out tomorrow, and instead of me just doing a desktop review, I wanted to like actually shoot something cool, and I showed you it earlier. I'm like, you know what? I wouldn't have been able to do that if I had like freelance work and I was just not making any money from anything on the YouTube platform, right?
yeah.
But now I'm able to use like a system that I really like and make content that I really like, and then I don't have to like ask for permission kind of thing.
Yeah, we're basically at the same point, um, which sucks though because you've been doing it a fraction of the time I've been doing it. Guys, Kofi just came out of nowhere and just is taking over. And dude, I remember when I started to see your stuff more, I was like, what the hell? Like I've been at this for years, and this dude's already at my level. So you've been an inspiration for me to exactly what you just said. Like I'm starting to slowly gain more sponsors finally, and I'm
Hmm.
trying all that money. I'm losing money still, just in
Yep.
all the videos that I'm doing right now. And most of the videos that I'm working on, they're not gonna be out for another like month or two, which sucks on
Yeah.
top of that. So it's almost like the same thing as working with clients, but we have more creative freedom. We get to do what we want. So like,
Yeah.
circling back to you saying you're buying a camera for you, I think one of the things with my YouTube and my audience is a lot of people would like talk crap and like, oh, this guy's always buying new systems. I was always buying systems because I would have within the next 3 to 6 months all these jobs lined up, and I'm like, oh, I need this, I need that. Oh, it's going into this, and so I would always pick up new cameras for those jobs.
Yeah.
So now that I'm trying to slow down, doing more stuff for me, and building a community and having everyone involved with it and all of us growing, this is that camera for that. So
Yeah.
I still love the FX3 and the FX6. They're still great cameras. For a lot of documentary, I still have a lot of documentary stuff coming up. I want to try to shoot as much of it as possible on this, but I'm probably still going to end up running an FX6 for things like that, or having the FX3 on standby.
Hmm.
Um, and the FX3 still, it can do any job you need it to do.
Yeah.
So can the FX6, but for me, the FX3 is even more. There's more utility behind it just because of its size and the way you can rig it out.
Hmm.
But again, as any time possible that I can make this A cam, I'm gonna make it A cam.
Yeah. 100%. Like
Yeah, it's
that's
actual film. It makes you want to film make. If that makes sense.
no, honest to God, that's literally what happened. Like I'm borrowing these guys, and I honestly wish I had smaller lenses, but Tokino let me borrow two of these, and like even though it's super heavy, they're incredibly cumbersome. And like I've tried to use a lidar setup. Basically, I tried to give it autofocus to see if I could. It kind of works, but because the lens is so big, it does like the motor just it can't hang. But it makes me want to like take it out and just film random stuff all the time, which is something that like I haven't really. I think I felt that the first time I got the FX6, and then some of my best stuff came out of like that first like 7 8 months of having it because I'm like I want to pick it up and use it all the time, and I want to try different things, and like now having a new system that that's the KX that does that, right? Like you want to be able to shoot
Mm,
more, and you actually, what I'm starting to find is every time I like upgrade a system, I'll end up making some of the best stuff I'll ever have because I have like there's a low level responsibility of like you have this expensive thing now, you have to show out now. Like you can't necessarily do the same thing you were doing. And like for the testing and stuff, I'm still shooting fitness stuff, but like I'm getting into music videos. I'm trying to get into a lot of fashion work. I'm trying to expand kind of that palette, because I felt like I've done everything I could do in like kind of the fitness world side of things. Where now I'm like, oh, you know what? Like I have the system where like even if it's my first foray into it, it's gonna look really good if anything else. And then you could slowly start to build up the skills in other formats otherwise.
yeah, I mean, and there's no I know a lot of people think there's like rules and you have to have a cine camera to make great stuff or blah blah blah. It's not that at all. Like there's a lot of times where the FX3 and FX6 can do things that the Red Komodo X can't do,
Mhm.
and vice
Yeah.
versa. So, but I'm our like I had a talk with a creative director from a brand I used to work with a lot, and they're like $1 billion like worldwide corporation type thing. And I was telling her, I was like, I'm tired of like having like these $10,000 to $30,000 jobs that I'm getting, because it's just like it's they then bring in teams, and those teams are like getting the $100,000 jobs and $1 million jobs. So there's a big gap there. You know, there's like that
Yeah.
lower middle class of videography jobs, and then there's actual like commercial filmmaking type jobs.
Yeah.
So running around like just putting more responsibility on yourself and buying a $10,000 camera and a cinema camera to where it kind of slows you down, and you have to actually think about what you're about to shoot. You need a storyboard, you need a shot list, you need a because you can't really. I mean, this camera is still. I have a video idea that I want to do on why the Red Komodo is the best run and gun film making camera, but
Mm.
that's another thing. But it puts you into that filmmaking mindset just because it is a bigger camera. You do have to rig it out. It doesn't have like great autofocus on it, and
Mm.
but just circling back to that point again, the FX3. There are times where I'm like, let's just do on the FX3 because it's going to like just knock out all the
It's what a
issues that
social
we would
media
have
is.
with this. Yeah,
Yeah. It's one of those things like you're making an Instagram reel. I don't necessarily need a red Komodo for that, but like other things that like you want to. It's weird because I also came from like I have a different walk of life, I guess, entirely from the filmmaking space because fitness is so removed from everything else from a production standpoint. Where like five's a crowd, right? Like everything I've
yeah,
done, like I don't think I've ever worked on like outside of one gig I did with a gaming company in Samsung, with one of the Toronto Raptors, like the biggest crew we had, and there was like 12 people there, which isn't a gigantic crew. But like anytime I've been doing like any of my retainer work or when I was working with Gymshark for a bunch, like it wasn't more than five people, but we all like had to be really, really, really good at like certain things. And we all did double duty, right? Like there was like I had to fly to LA, do the location scout, make sure everything was good, set up all the lighting the night before, then go call the crew. Like you had to do so many things, but you all had like everybody had to split those roles between 3 to 5 people rather than like have a group of like 10. And that's just your life, right? And again, it goes back to that volume thing. So I might not get often a $10,000 gig, but I could count on like 4K fairly often.
yeah,
Or just taking on operator jobs at $1,000 a day, like go in there for 6 hours, come back home. Um, and that's like kind of how that world works. But like you said, like now that you're on the red system, it's so much easy. Like it's not easier, but like you have that there's that feeling of like I gotta put on now. Like
yeah,
I have the tools of the barrier of what I put in my head about why some people are doing better than others is kind of gone a little bit more because now you're operating with the same equipment they are. So now you
yeah,
have to operate you have to operate the same way from an equipment standpoint, but then also from a before you get to the shoot standpoint. And because you're like, well, you've already eliminated the barrier, you're shooting on a red camera. Like now, what's your excuse, right?
yeah,
That and some people don't rise up to that occasion. Some people will get on a red system, think the whole world's going to kind of be able to do whatever, like they can do whatever they want and stuff like that, not have to worry. And then some people are going to do exactly what me and you are doing is we're going to kind of push our own boundaries and start expanding in terms of how things are going to look and how you want to actually set things up and not even just from your camera perspective but like who you want to bring on for lighting, how you pick your locations or talent, all that other stuff, right? And I think if that takes me to spend the amount of money that I spent on it, whatever, I think I'll be better for it. um,
yeah.
I'm gonna jump in the chat because I don't think we
Yeah.
answered anybody yet,
Oh
and there
yeah,
is a bit
no.
of a delay, guys. So if you put new things in the chat, just know that there's like a 20-second delay to when I actually answer things. Um, Mike, Red Komodo X coming. Yes, it came. I have the Komodo X. The A6700 was a little bit of a misdirect. That was on purpose just because I had family stuff this week and I didn't want to answer a bunch of Red Komodo questions when I'm dealing with like my grandma's memorial and other stuff. But anyways, amazing. Been following you legendary dudes for the past year. Thank you so much. Been signed between the FX6 and the Ronin 4D. I still love both cameras. I don't know about you, Cam, but like I still love the FX6. I still love the Ronin 4D. It's just like for what I want, I pick something else.
Yeah, I mean, again, the Komodo, I love the 4D, but the quality's still better on the Komodo, obviously. But again, it forces me to think about the shots more. Like when I'm writing a treatment or a shot list and I have the Komodo in mind, like you saw the little video preview I sent you, that looks way more cinematic than anything I would have done with the 4D or the FX3 just because I'm thinking more like a filmmaker with this.
Yeah, that looked fire. I looked at that and was like, wait, hang on a second. That's am I about to? I thought I was watching an episode of The Walking Dead, but looks better. And I was like, yo, this is kind of fire. I want and like that wasn't the whole thing. There's more to it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so like that was sick. Josh at Cine Dailies, Kinfinity, I almost did it. And Josh knows I was in his DMs being like, yo, show me some footage, show me some tests, show me some grades. Like I'm really trying to see what this Kinfinity is all about. I don't know if you saw it at NAB, but that camera, like I think they had an 8K, and I was like, wait, it was an 8K and it was like 12 grand, but it had pretty much everything that like the old school Monstro had except for RAW. And then I don't know if they're still doing it, but I remember them mentioning that there might be like a Kinney RAW coming out, and I'm like, that's a poor, like not necessarily a poor man's Monstro, it's still $12,000, but like Monstros back then were like 50 racks, and I'm like, honestly, people got to talk about this system more. And there's none at the rental houses. I can't borrow any, so it's hard for me to like if I had a chance to borrow it, I might have got it versus the Komodo X. But I think because I'm like nobody really knows about it. I don't have one. I have no access to one. I kind of like stopped thinking about it, but like it was promising, and it's like ProRes 444. Like it's really really good.
My biggest thing with RAWs is if they don't work with DaVinci, to me, I feel it's kind of pointless. Because if you're going to use RAW and you want to get the true, if you want to really stretch it, you got to be in DaVinci.
Yeah.
And so that's why ProRes RAW, I never care to try it just because you can't open it in there.
You have to get a RAW converter. It takes a lot. It takes a long time. It's a tedious process. You can do it. It's tedious, and you have to pay the license. I'll pay like $130 Canadian to just license out the ability to use the RAW in Cinema DNG and then use it in Resolve.
With this, you just drag and drop it into the DaVinci, and it plays back smoothly. Like it's wild. It's easy.
Yeah, that's wild. Andre Marshall, Lumix user, has entered the chat. Technically speaking, and this might happen in the next week or so, but I actually am going to get the S5 Mark II from Panasonic just to test out for a little bit and see how it goes. I'm interested about Panasonic. I've never used one. I think I almost bought a GH4 in like 2018. Ooh, is that the Mark II?
Yeah.
You're it though. Are you just selling it to get more Komodo stuff, or like you just?
I'm just out because I mean I was using it for like B-roll types or like BTS type stuff, but it's just been sitting on my shelf, so I'm like,
fair enough. I really wanna. What's it called?
the UI on it is like amazing for it being a mirrorless camera. It's the closest thing to a cinema camera on a mirrorless body.
That's what I've heard.
Mind blowing.
And I swear there's a I could have sworn someone was mentioning that like Panasonic and like Blackmagic are buddies. So like
I saw that.
And there's a theory that like the BS1H or whatever it's called, the box version of the S1H, there's no Mark II coming out. But now they're going L mount together. So, theory, I think it's actually my own theory. Big brain theory is that the next Blackmagic camera, the BS1H like Mark II, is just a cubed Blackmagic camera. That would be imagine like in a world where like if Blackmagic's like, hey, we're gonna give your Panasonic Lumix cameras Blackmagic RAW in exchange. What were those designs for that box camera you guys had again? right? If that
Yeah.
becomes an exchange, like I think like they're gonna come out with something really dope. I think like what I like about Black Magic is that like they do come out with pretty dope stuff.
Yeah.
Form factor iffy,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
but like if just why is it football shaped? I don't know.
Yeah.
Um, but like they're gonna come out with something wild, and I'm excited. Hang on, I'm gonna
So,
try to see how far we can get in the chat before I update because we just didn't answer anybody.
yeah.
Do y'all rent gear from camera for that job? Buying a camera for a specific job is wild. Um, I rent gear. I'm not sure if Josh was talking to me, but I rent gear quite a bunch of times. The only and like there's like 5 rental shops in Toronto. The hard part is that sometimes what you want isn't there, um, or it's just like it's dinged up and it's crazy. Someone put red in a puke face. I don't know. Can't help you. I don't think your camera's a personality trait. Therefore, I don't think puking when you see someone with one should be a thing. Um, Hang on a second. How do you guys feel about the black shading? Um, I had the Komodo OG, the black shading, and you had the Komodo original as well. The black
Yeah.
shading on the X is way faster.
Way faster.
It's slightly longer than the FX6 when you have to do the ABR, whatever it's called, but on the Komodo X, it's a lot faster than it was, so it's not that bad. How do you feel about using the DJI Ronin for document? I think you could do it. I think you could make you could probably do some really dope doc stuff on the Ronin 4D. I think Mark Bone just he just did some stuff with the Ronin 4D. He did a ton of stuff on the Ronin 4D in terms of doc work. So in terms of me, haven't done it, but you could definitely check out Mark, and he's definitely done it. Um, Hang on, it's crazy that you're not rocking the FX6 anymore. Here's the thing. So, and Cam, you might have experienced this too. Um, the FX6, and I mean, like I've made like, and I guess I'd argue I've made 50 to 70 videos on the FX6 system. That's just because something I had. Um, did you get a lot of pushback leaving the FX6 on the Komodo? And like, was it more like was it along the lines of people being like, "Oh, like I got it because of you did"? My take on it personally is that like just because like I don't have it personally anymore doesn't necessarily mean like people shouldn't have it because like me getting the KX doesn't invalidate everything that I've said previously because it's not like your needs have suddenly changed just because mine have. You know what I mean? I don't know what like I guess what your take on that is.
Yeah, I mean, I find it confusing how people, like, you could say how much you love a camera, but you decide not to keep it, so they think in their mind, they're like, oh, it's trash then. It's like, no, it's just, there's a lot of cameras out there for me to use and to try, and they're all tools. They're just tools. They're not putting a ring on my finger. I'm not cuddling my camera at night. Like, it's a very logical thing to us. Like, it's just we have this coming up, that coming up. We want to push our careers in this direction, so I need these tools. That's all it is. It's still a great camera. It's still I would probably rent it if I'm gonna shoot a giant documentary and I have like another shooter with me or something like that. I'd probably rent 2 FX6s and maybe take this as
Yeah.
like as a key, like a shot for some things. But yeah,
Yeah, that's been my thing too. And I think what ends up happening is like when because I'm in art of documentary. I think most people know that have a course or whatever in terms of Mark Bone's like documentary course. I actually took that course and then realized I'm not exactly a documentary shooter. Like I'm not the feature doc person. I'm the person that like I want to make a really like aesthetically banging like 4 to 5 minute commercial piece with some storytelling in it. Like that's gonna be my wheelhouse probably indefinitely. And I was picking up like items to be a long form doc shooter, and I was like, I can do it. I'm not, but it's not something that like I have intrinsic motivation to do on a regular basis. But when I'm shooting like these 4 5 minute pieces, I'm like, that's where I want to get like really, 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 really good at. Where I think a system like the KX, where you have it, like you know what, you get a little bit more image, but you're not going to have like autofocus. Fine. You know what I mean? Like that's a hill I'm willing to die on for those things. And also like when I'm shooting on the FX6, I pull manual anyway. Um, so I'm like, okay, you know what? Like that's gonna fit my needs a little bit more. Where the FX, I think I had a fun time like learning everything about it and sharing with people. I feel a bit weird too when like I don't want people to think that like it's that classic. Um, you show up for the embargo video, and then you never hear from that person again,
yeah,
right? And I think people can understand that like there's a very stark difference between people that are doing the tech videos because that's part of their job. They're giving the camera just as fairly to actually test it out, but there's no they've not made a commitment to actually like use it for a long time. You know what I mean? Whereas there's guys like us that will like we'll get it on a system and then we'll shoot project after project after project. And like when you're presented with new information, then you're allowed to make a different decision. The same with pretty much anything else. Like it's weird that it's just in the camera market where like if you're given new information about either yourself as a filmmaker or the landscape that you're in, and then you adjust to accommodate, like that's somehow seen as a bad thing. And I'm like, I don't think that's fair because we only do that with cameras. We only will hold
Yeah.
people on this pedestal in terms of what camera they should have, and God forbid they switch because from us sharing our experiences, people also find that's for them as well. So you're not allowed to leave or deviate. That's a weird thing that I wrestle with often, and that's like that actually kind of held me back from saying a lot of stuff about leaving the FX6 in general. Then I
Yeah.
realized, who cares? Like,
Yeah. I
who
think a lot of
cares?
people get it twisted that like they forget we have our traditional YouTubers, but the landscape's changing a lot on here, and there's a lot more actual professionals coming on to YouTube who have worked in the commercial industry, whether it's fitness, fashion, or like whatever it is. There's more of us coming on to here now, so um, we're not like we're not ambassadors for these brands, and we're not only allowed to talk about this, and we're not wearing like Sony t-shirts and hats and Sony's filling our bank account every day. Like I don't get all that nonsense that comes with all that. We're just filmmakers. We're just doing what we're passionate about. We all these new cameras are always constantly coming out, and we get excited because it's like, oh, we could apply it to this job or that job. I know
Yeah,
I like shooting documentaries, but also like doing narrative stuff. I like shooting
yeah,
fashion. I like shooting commercial stuff. Like I'm all over the place with it. So shout out to the homie.
yeah. No, it's like, what's, hang on. There's a bunch, there's a ton of, I didn't realize there's 122 people in here, which has never happened. This is the first live
Wow.
stream I've ever done. That is more people than some of my university classes, so that's kind of dope. I'm gonna try to, also, I know I apologize for this. I don't know if I had to or not. Any of the questions you ask only sparks like a comment to answer. That's not necessarily like me like going at a particular person, but
Yeah, yeah.
a lot of these questions that are asked are things that like me and Cam have heard a lot. So we're just kind of making that like a topic of conversation kind of thing. Let me just go back up and see where it is. Did you consider the new Zcam F6 Pro? No, honestly, I've not ever used a Zcam. I've seen one and I saw one at NAB. Not my favorite, if I'm gonna be honest. I love the form factor. Um, I don't know, something about it was like I wasn't sold on it. I wasn't in love with it. Hang on a second. There's a Cam, there's a ton of stuff in here.
I know. I keep looking at stuff.
Uh, hang on a second. I got to scroll up high enough that I could find like the last ones that I didn't. Yeah, black. Okay, last one was black shadings. Somebody asked a really good question, and I can't find it. Race mode. I can't buy a Ronin 4D just to teach people because that's a lot of money, and I don't have that kind of money. Oh, there it is. What about no variable ND on the KX? Now, Cam, you have a solution on that already. I
Yeah.
not. Um, what are you using for built-in NDs? Because I have the Nisi the True Color, but I do want a solution where if I don't need a matte box and I still get like a decent ND. It doesn't have to be perfect, but I just want like a decent one.
Yeah, so this is the Mofage Poco Rare VND. There's a couple other options out there, but personally, this is my favorite on there. It covers most of these lenses. You see, this is the big old Lauer Proteus on here, but yeah, I think it goes from like one or two to like nine stops or something like that. And one issue with the Komodo is it has IR pollution. So when you're getting all that light information, a lot of other cameras will block that. Red
Mhm.
doesn't do that, so you have to worry about your IR getting in. So this blocks out a lot of it. Doesn't block it completely. But I mean, for most stuff, like hard NDs still look better than anything.
Yeah.
But rear VNDs look a little more better than front VNDs in my opinion. So yeah, this is what I've been rocking. Nisi, I do have a Nisi. They have like those stackable VNDs where you can stack an IR filter on top of that as well. So um, yeah, you need to get that. Makes it
Yeah.
easy. It's almost like having an internal ND basically.
That's yeah, no, that's that I hit them up and they said like they're like, "Oh, we'll let you know." I'm like, "Okay, thanks."
Oh no,
Um
I'll get you.
Yeah, no, that'll be cool. Like, because I want to be able to, and I think what I'm gonna do is outside of like the, I don't think I'm gonna make Komodo X content the same way that I did the FX6 outside of the rig tours. And we were talking about this
Mhm.
before, but like, I think it's super dope that like everybody has a camera that looks like so unique to them that like you could tell whose camera it is based just on looking at it, right? Like you, not everyone's gonna have the same cage, or maybe some people do have the same accessories, but like having alpha guard skins, which I'm really excited for when they actually come out with KX ones, different top handles and like different ways that they customize their camera. So like if you're watching a channel, like that's their, it's like it's almost like when certain artists have like color schemes they wear. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It has nothing to do with filmmaking, but it's something that I
yeah,
think is super dope. Hang
yeah.
on one second.
Yep.
My brother walked across the frame apparently, and I don't think he realized that the camera was there. One second.
You're good.
I'm here. Where? My room. Oh. Yes. Well, yeah, everyone's like, "Who's that naked dude that walked across the frame?" And I'm like, "That's my brother. He went to take a shower, and he doesn't care."
That's why I said shout out to the homie because he was walking past.
So, if you are into filmmaking and you want to spend a lot less money, live with your siblings, but also hope that they don't walk around the house naked. So, I mean, hopefully we don't get demonetized. James, like you weren't
No,
like
good.
out, were you?
No.
Okay, bet. All right, cool. We could still monetize this. We're good. Someone's gonna watch this replay and die laughing. Okay, so someone asked a C70 question before I decided to tend to that. What up, Lee? Um, Hang on, random dudes. Yes, I know 120 people saw him naked. What are your thoughts about the C70 for someone that's mainly running gun and a sports filmmaker? I mainly shoot on the Canon C700. What camera would you recommend to someone just starting out? Um, Here's the thing with like cameras to start out. I think, and I don't know. You could tell me if you agree with this one. I find you still go with budget first because like if your first car is a Tesla, then your first car is a Tesla. You're gonna learn how to drive. Um, if you can afford a Canon C70, I say go for it, and then like you're just gonna have to learn at the Canon C70. It might take you a little bit of a longer learning curve, but at the least you're not like the advantage you have is that you're not gonna buy like the camera that's like one step up and then learn that one and then upgrade and then upgrade and then upgrade. You could just kind of hit the ground running and then just commit to learning that system, and then you just learn at a higher starting point than somebody else.
Yeah, I mean, I could kind of explain it like motorcycles. First time I bought a motorcycle, like I was obsessed with this one. After riding it for a couple months, I was like, oh, I actually don't like this at all. Like this isn't for me. So it's a constant thing like that. So I would say go more with the budget option and figure out what you end up liking to shoot more. Because you could start saying, oh, I want to shoot this, and then end up getting opportunities with something else and end up needing a totally different camera. Then you'll regret spending 10K on that first camera. So that's why I like the Sony so much because they give you so much for the
Yeah.
price. So like the FX30 is probably like a great like introduction camera, but you can also grow into that and make a lot of money off of it still.
I love the FX30, and I'm still gonna argue that in terms of like my sub $3,000 camera, this is my absolute favorite, hands down, no questions asked. The FX30 gives you a ton. You're obviously gonna get the E mount, which is cool because you could use every one of the 50,000 lenses they have.
Yeah.
And it's essentially the FX3 with like not as good low light, but still decent. But also it's half of the price. Like if this was a camera that was like $800 cheaper or like $900 cheaper, I'd be like, nah, you could pass it and you wouldn't miss anything. When it's half of the price, I'm like, yeah, okay, this is a good, like, it's a good value for the
Yeah.
money. The only part that sucks is I don't have a full frame camera currently now.
Oh yeah.
I'm entire. I am living the APS-C life outside of the Panasonic S5 Mark II. That I think is gonna. It's also a holiday in Canada right now, so we won't get any packages. So like everything from like my Amazon affiliate checks, any orders that I have for like any brand deal stuff, I won't see until like middle of the week. But
Oh yeah.
I'm really excited about the S5 because I want to see what it can do.
Yeah. I mean, it still might not sell. We'll see, but
You might
that's
change your
also
mind,
great.
man.
Yeah, I mean, again, the UI. Just wait till you're gonna be like, why doesn't every camera have all this?
Yeah. Damn. You know, the worst part is that like I feel like because of the big two, like the Canon Sony battle, like you're so used to a certain way that like menu systems work that like everything else adjacent to it, I find is a little bit easier to use. Like picking up the red Komodo, it takes you like took me like 45 minutes to figure out how the menus worked. The
Yeah,
Black Magic took even less time. So like in the Panasonic, I'm sure it's going to be a lot simpler to use.
yeah,
And then you almost like you're like, wait a minute, why? I've been rocking with like, mind you, great cameras, but I'm like, I've been rocking with the stress and confusion of dealing with menus from like Canon and Sony. And there's so many things that are in there, and like you just get used to it after a while. But like
yeah.
the fact that you have to get used to it in the first place kind of sucks. Um, Hang on. Well, let me. I'm gonna try to. I'm trying my best to do these these chat things. Bro, you need a beginner's course. I was just talking to Luke Forsyth about this because we have different strategies. So Luke has a course that just came out. I think he filled it. And I wonder what your take is for this one too. I want to work on a course until I'm about at 100K. I don't want to drop it till 100 because I think what I want to have happen is to be able to like not only build like authority between the 18,000 at now and 100,000 to the point where like it's almost irresponsible for you not to buy the course. Like you wouldn't have to look and be like, oh, is this course worth it? It's more so like, okay, well, this guy's given me like 500 videos of free game. Okay, you know what? It'd be stupid for me not to buy this course. I don't know how. Like, are you thinking of educational stuff like that? Or are you going to go more farther into the production space?
I used to think about doing some courses, and I'm always getting hit up to do like personal one-on-one trainings and stuff, and I just don't have time for all
Yeah,
that. And so I think I'm just going to try to focus on more because I want to make films. So I'm trying to figure out how I could build that community so we can all kind of go on that adventure together.
yeah,
But you know, I still have to monetize it in some form. So um, yeah, there's a lot of options out there. It's just what seems more um, authentic for me.
yeah,
Because you crush it on like teaching. Like
yeah,
I get grumpy if someone asks me a question where I'm like, "Why don't you know this?" I'm that old guy that's just like gets grumpy for no reason about it. So
yeah.
might not
I
might
mean,
not be my lane.
I only get agitated about it when like you'll put out like I'll do like AMAs twice a week. I'll make YouTube content, and then I'll put different avenues where I can answer questions on my own time, and then I still get like emails and DMs almost demanding information. I'm like I can't keep up with all of that, and like there's been and this it was a big problem before. People were giving up my phone number to people.
Oh yeah,
And I
I
was like,
remember
whoa,
that.
whoa, 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 hang on. We've crossed the line here. You do not
Yeah.
have my and I get an accent when I'm angry. I'm like, but like don't start passing my phone number around expecting me to be able to like to expecting me to answer because like that's a little bit offside. It's a little bit personal. Like don't do that.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
super
I appreciate that people will come to us with like these more in-depth personal questions, but you guys gotta realize like we can't answer everyone and start a conversation with everyone. Like that's a whole nother full-time job just to do.
yeah.
So
Yeah, no, it's wild, man. Like, and it got to a point where it was like a little bit much. Where I'm like, and that's why I started getting Super Peer on because I'm like, you know what? People pay for consulting all the time, right?
mhm.
It's not any different than anything else. So I'm like, you know what? Maybe I'll just make that like kind of a paywall. If you want to like sit down and pick my brain for an hour, then like I don't know, pay for it. Like people do that all the time, kind of thing. That's the only way that I've been able to like mitigate the influx of people coming in is you have to like set it up where you could answer them on your own time, rather than you always feel like you're catering to somebody else's needs all the time, and you have no time for yourself.
Yeah, yeah, yep.
And hit me up if you come through to Southern Arizona. Oh, you have an invitation to Arizona from Chris Berry.
Let's check this out.
I gotta go to. I haven't been to the States almost all year.
Bro, I gotta bring out some cowboy stuff.
Honestly, yo, if you get me a cowboy hat, I'm down.
Let's go.
Give me like size. I got like size 13s. You give me a good set of boots and a good cowboy hat, I'm down.
Let's go, bro.
I'm out there.
We'll
I can't
film
ride a.
we'll film a boot barn segment, everything.
I don't have a. I don't think I could ride a horse. I might be too big. So
We could
I
we could
might.
find a big horse.
Fair enough. Get like two horses. Like if I get like the carriage, like
Yeah,
300,
yeah.
where the dude has like the horses on the carriage. Get me one of those. Um, that
No,
actually would be a fire collab.
there's some big cowboys who get on their horses. They jump off the horse. They jump on a bull, wrestle it to the ground. Yeah,
So
they're
I
probably
can't
like
do
twice
that.
as big as you. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm about to say like if you want me wrestling a bull, I ain't gonna do that. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We and where I'm from, we just eat them. We don't do none of that. That's not one of. I'm gonna
That's
have
the
to
cost of entry there.
like I'm gonna have to do that video and then explain to my Ghanaian parents why I'm fighting bulls out in the
Yeah.
United States. Look, gotta explain to my aunties. Oh yeah, we were just fighting a bull. Kofi, why were you doing that thing on the YouTube fight? I didn't. No, I'm not. I'm not trying to do that. I'll watch you guys do it. You guys have fun.
Will you get
Laugh.
close to them at least?
Yeah, yeah, no problem. As long as like you guys got a cosign that this bull isn't going to decide that
Well, you got
I'm
to
a
be quick
minion.
on your
Like I'm one
feet.
of the what is it, matador? I'm not one of those guys. Or like the rodeo clown. I'm not one of those.
Yeah.
So as long as the bull and I have an understanding, we're okay. Yo, come to Nashville, and I promise you some cow. Yo, I haven't like you have to understand. I live in Canada. All of these places are expensive to get to, bro. I am not close to the United States. But there's a what's weird about Canada and YouTube is that there's so many of us, but
Yeah.
like
What's up with that?
I don't. You know what it is? Okay, here's my theory, and I think we were talking about this. I was talking about this morning. I find that what ends up happening is that like there's a lot of talented people in Canada, but there's more than the opportunities that are available. So then what ends up happening is people are like, okay, I'll just do things by myself, and then they end up turning into YouTube, and then that they become
Hmm.
successful at YouTube. Because when I'm thinking about it now, I'm like in terms of like doing professional work, if I wanted to kind of expand more as a DP, LA makes more sense in spades, like 1000%. Going to LA or going to New York makes a lot more sense. It's hard to do that when you're immigrating from Canada. You're gonna have to go through a visa. The immigration process is hell. Also, that in recent years, my pigment doesn't do so well. But like going over the like whole transition over there is kind of deterrent for a lot of people. So what you end up doing is you start making videos on your own, and then you end up trying to find a place to put them, and then YouTube becomes a place to put them, and then that's where you get some of like the gigantic YouTubers that are around, right? Is them just doing whatever the best they can with the resources they have, not having not having the ability to have some of those big set opportunities. Not everybody gets them,
Yeah.
which sucks. And then also another thing, and we were talking about this before, is and there are some YouTubers that are in here, so I really hope you guys are listening. Is the lack of collaboration in the space, despite there being so little of us. And I find where I think YouTube is going to go, or at least I hope it goes into this whole like I call it 3.0. Is just that. Like say for example, we do a cowboy shoot and then you're directing and then maybe I'm gaffing, who cares? Someone else Armando's gonna DP it, and then somebody that looks like a cowboy, Josh Yo is gonna be the talent or whatever the case is. And then you get to watch this like cohesive project, and then everybody gets to chime in from their perspective on that project because they all took different roles, right? So like you can teach how to direct a cowboy fashion shoot. Someone could teach the lighting that we used. And then that way we could package that type of content, go to a particular brand and say like, hey, Aperture or Da Vinci, I don't know, whatever. And we could all kind of pitch our particular expertise in the confines of a singular project. That way we only have to shoot one thing,
Yeah.
but we all get to take on different roles, and then that becomes a way where we actually become the actual filmmaking community. We always talk about the filmmaking community, but then you always ever only see one person at a desk, and I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't love that. And coming from the fitness world where everybody collaborated with each other, like every no not one channel in that space did well by not working with other people. They all like bounced off each other. They were almost like it was almost like watching a TV show, and you saw different characters from different shows in your show. Kind of
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
we are talking about like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, love it or hate it. They do an amazing job at like introducing new characters that like if you like that character, there's an opportunity to learn more about that person. And I don't think you get like for Guardians of the Galaxy, people are like, oh, we love Groot, we love Rocket, we want to see more from either one. So what does Disney do? They make a Rocket and Groot show
Yeah.
where you only get those two, right? And I'm like, you know what? We don't do that on YouTube. Like we don't really have what are you where are you going? The chat is going crazy because you're walking back and forth and everyone's like, what is he doing back there? He's actually wearing like a very light shade of purple. So it's not an all white party. That's what I'm working on in the creator community. We're so close to launching. To stay tuned. Armando is in the live. The
Armando's a
OG.
homie. So
Our the
Armando and I
OG.
have been teaming up on a bunch of stuff.
I know, and I'm jealous.
Yeah, move down, bro.
Yeah, you know what? It's really the immigration process. Like
Yeah,
for a country that is literally like I could drive there today.
yeah.
The immigration process to America is ridiculous. Also, y'all need better relations with with just people in general. I don't even know,
Oh
just me,
yeah,
but like in general, it's too hot down there right now.
oh
I
yeah,
mean that more than one way,
yep,
but
yeah. No, I get it. But yeah, I mean, going back to that real quick, the reason I started to take YouTube more serious was seeing
mm,
what Danny Gervais was doing.
yeah,
Because, you know, he started doing his feature film, then he's getting other YouTubers. I mean, you got Maddie producing it. You got, I forgot the homie's name is. He was DPing it. There was a
Carlo,
few other like YouTubers that were coming in and helping in different aspects and
yeah,
stuff. So I would love to kind of follow in his footsteps and doing more features
yeah.
and just bring it in anyone who's passionate and wants to help and letting them build their own content out of it. So
I think that's going to be the next thing. And I think what you have to do is it has to be organic and it might not be every single project. You know what I mean? Like there's going to be
yeah,
times
yeah,
where you won't be able to get like a DP to kind of come up and he's going to be also another content creator as well. And he's going to be able to pull something out of it. Like you have to do it where it has to be just an organic thing. I think that's what it is. I think I'm just going in
yeah,
circles, but as long as it's like an organic thing, everyone's like chill with each other, but we all have disciplinaries that bounce off each other. I think it could go really well. I think
yeah,
if you can figure that out, that workflow, and you're going to see pockets of that. I think what's going to end up happening is when the earlier stages of YouTube, where guys were doing a lot more vlogging and desktop stuff rather than like doing like on set stuff and making projects, you got to see if you watch a Peter McKinnon video, you would see at least 4 to 5 other people in his video, right? You would see like Alan, you'd see Maddie, you'd see Chris at some point, you'd see Casey Neistat, like you'd see all these people, and they're almost like characters that you want to go and follow. And it felt organic. Like
yeah,
it didn't feel like any one of them just like dropped off at someone's front door and they're like, "Hey, be in my video." It was more so like they kind of knew each other already. Even if it wasn't that super well, they either warmed up to each other and they started to be more familiar later on, or they just were friends to begin with. That sort of organic stuff you don't see, and I think that's why you see a lot of the views in like this space in YouTube kind of going down. It's because you've seen everything. You've seen the desktop review, you've seen
yeah,
the tutorial, you've seen the I'm gonna put my chair this way and do this with my computer on the side, and I'm gonna flip back and forth in the tutorial. Like you've seen that already. What you haven't seen is stuff like this, a live stream where two dudes that left Sony, the FX6, going to Red and then just talking shop about it, right? So
yeah. Try and trigger people there, bro.
yeah, honestly, you know what's weird though? Ironically enough, I had zero negative comments, not even one. I
Yeah,
was like I was braced. I was ready to. I came in ready
I
to fight,
know. I
and
know. I
not
warned
one.
you.
I came in ready to fight, and not one person was like, "Screw you, you traitor." Actually, I think I got a DM that someone jokingly texted me traitor. Actually, literally, John messaged me 3 minutes ago saying that he called me a traitor. But that's the first one. But anyways, yeah, no, like I never actually got that, and I think what ends up happening is when and we talked about this before, when there are guys that do the camera reviews just to do the embargo video, but then you don't hear from them again, it kind of feels like I've been influenced to buy a thing and I don't know if you use
Hmm.
it. When
Yeah,
you see it used in a situation, any situation, it doesn't even have to be a big set. When you see it used for a period of time, you're like, okay, this person's actually going through the paces. He's actually making it work, or they're actually doing whatever the case might be. I'm more inclined to trust this person. So then when they do move on, I know that they moved on because something changed in their creative life, and not just they got bored or the new thing came out.
yeah. I
Um,
mean, I didn't get put in. For some reason, people treat me like as if I just did an embargo video and then just left the camera, which is
yeah,
weird because it's like every camera I've owned it for like 6 months, and I put it through its paces and I put it on jobs, made a lot of money off the cameras, and for some reason, every time I switch, people are like, oh, just I don't know why. I don't know.
yeah. You know what? And some people like. I think there are going to be some people that just they'll love the sound of their own voice, so they'll use somebody else's channel as a way as a vehicle to do that, and it's just kind of par for the course. Hang on, there's a
Yeah, yeah.
couple of questions, a lot of actually a lot of comments about the collaborative thing, so I'm going to see what people are saying. I'm super excited to see what Armando's building in terms of the community of stuff. And if he doesn't involve me, I'm going to cry my eyes out. And changing camera system makes sense as you progress in your career. Are there any special lenses you would like to carry on your filmmaking journey? You're knee deep in Lala,
Yeah.
which is fire. I haven't found my like forever kit. I still like as much as I'm priced out of the fitness world, and I don't think I'm going to take on a lot of like brand clients for there. I still think I'm going to shoot sports and fitness stuff. Just it's going to be for myself. Um, and my thing is like for that, I need a lens that's like I need a lens set that's like sharp like the Sigmas, but a little bit of character. Like I don't like too much like warmth and creaminess and some of that stuff. Just because my style is very moody and it's very like gritty. But at the same time, I want something that's a little bit more than photo glass at the same time. So like
Yeah.
I would say in a perfect world, if I could afford it to get the whole set, is like Sigma has two types of cine glass. Like they have the ones that the same as their photo, and they have another one in like their 40 and I think a 65. Like they're odd focal lengths that are different glass just for cinema use. Those are fire. I think those are dope. I shot those on the I was doing like a Under Armour kind of like recreation on the Venice, and I thought those were really good. And that's like if I could find a more affordable version of that, that would be the lens I would get. But
Yeah.
you've been
I
using a
love
bunch.
I love 40 millimeter. But yeah, I mean, I'm anamorphic obsessed. So the nanomorphs, that's what I'm kind of obsessed with right now. The Atlas Mercuries, when those come out, like those just have beautiful character to them.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean the dual lens, those are the only spherical lenses I have that I like, just because they have that character, but they're still clean and they're APO.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I want to make a video about that, ranting, like we have enough clinical glass. Give us character now. Like give us
Yeah.
some glass that that moves us emotionally, not just commercially.
Yeah. Give me a lens that says something. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Actually, ironically enough, and I wish they had a full set of this, is I love the Zhongji Midicon Speedmaster full frame 1.0.
Aren't those
It had
big?
like it was huge. It was a gigantic lens, but like the character that came out of it was like exactly what I wanted, but the lens was gigantic and I was like this looks so good. There's only like one focal length for it really. I think this is a 35, but I think it's super 35. I don't think it's full frame. And I loved it, but it was just like I had to bring it in a separate case to be able to carry it around. And I'm like
Yeah.
if you can make a lens that was like that, that's a little bit better. What's it called? A little bit better price and a little bit smaller, it would be
Yeah.
perfect. I don't want to try the
Yeah.
two ones. Lee, always down to collab. Think the issues is coming up as concepts, UPI. I can't read. Down to collab. Rarely, I think, including another YouTuber. Everyone's on busy schedules. Lee, we live in the same city, bro. Just call me. Ask Pat. Pat has my phone number. Just I'm down the street. Just call me. like pause. Anyways, yeah, it is true. It's hard when everybody kind of has different like lives outside of YouTube. It's hard to like everyone come together.
Yeah.
But that's just like any other project, bro. And when you're able to present to a brand and say like, "Hey, this is our idea. This is what we plan on doing. Um, do you guys have budget for it?" And like, we'll an X person will make X content for it. I think you might be able to get it done. Like we tried it on a smaller scale, me and Victor Laferteza with the Zhu and Crane 4, where we worked on one project. He did kind of the more gimbal video from a fashion perspective. I did it as someone who didn't like gimbals at all. And those are two sponsored videos that they got that they didn't expect to get, but now they have that much more extra reach from having two people. So my whole thought is like, what if you have five? Hang on a second. How will you work on the non-autofocus around the red? It actually has autofocus and it's pretty decent. I'm
Yeah.
not
It's
gonna lie.
actually, when I had the
It's
original Komodo, I actually used it a lot.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
like I used it on the I tried it on my Komodo on the they have the red monitor at the rental shop that I go to, and I was just over there and it looks good. Like it's good. It's usable. It's usable.
Yeah.
Um
For
you
specific things.
Yeah, you can't use it for everything. It's not Sony autofocus by any stretch, but like it's very, very usable. Zeiss Jennas are awesome. Going with the new Leica R.
Man, the chat's
Ooh,
lit.
The Zeiss Jennas. I've never used those either. I think Josh uses those. I don't know if Cindy Dailies is still here, but he's used those a couple while ago. Hang on one second. Oh, what's the next step for you that you'll be working on the Komodo X? I think this is a question for me. Are you looking to do more set work? Yes and no. The Komodo X, I think I mentioned this earlier. It's more of a camera that's like for myself. So if like my own personal projects are probably going to be the bulk of what you're going to see first. But I also want to I want to try a social experiment where I want to see if a red camera does actually get you more jobs. I'm very curious to see what ends up happening in terms of using it that way. I want to see like time, like so from the time of today's video, obviously, I want to try to track how many gigs or how much money I make from freelancing using the Komodo package versus like the same period of time on the FX6. I think it might be a little more, but I don't think it's going to be much more. Which is why I'm like, you know what, I want to just use this as like, for example, if we have a gear review that we like, I have to do. I want to shoot that gear review on the Komodo, and then shoot a commercial with the Komodo X on a piece of gear. So like, I don't know, this 6700, and someone's like, hey, make something cool on it or something cool about it. I'll shoot it on the Komodo X. So that's kind of the way that I'm looking at it. Um, it will in certain markets. Tyler, you're right. Clients don't care. I think more producers have cared about me having to come out. I don't know if you've experienced this. I've had more producers kind of reach out, just like the thought of, because like I told them beforehand, I'm like, hey, just so you know, I'm changing kits or whatever. And like four projects came up, and suddenly they're like, oh, we have a thing just for you. We'd like to talk to you about. I'm like, I've known you for years. When did suddenly now you have a project for me? What happened?
Yeah, I've never ever have been asked what camera I'm bringing to a job, like ever.
I have a couple times. I like there was one job that I got specifically for the there's a couple times I've gotten a job specifically for the FX6, but it was mostly like not because of the FX6. It was either they needed something with a Sony camera to match it with, or they needed the Samsung job I did last year. I got a random DM at night being like, "Hey, can you operate tomorrow? Can you DP tomorrow? Does your camera have time code?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's time code." I'm like, "All right, cool. You're working tomorrow afternoon." I'm like, "Word, okay." I didn't.
Yeah,
It's the first time that's ever happened. Someone asked for time code of all things, but definitely. Hang on a second.
I know. I'm
I,
trying
I
to
think I enabled DVR and I don't know what that means.
DVR.
Don't know. I'm gonna turn it off. I don't know what I did, but I didn't break anything.
Dude, I would love to see you and Lee Zavitz collab. That would be sick.
We live in this like I see Pat all the time. I think I saw Creed 3 with Patrick, and I think I talked his ear off by how many anime references are in that movie. Never met Lee. There's a few Toronto guys like I've met before. I haven't met any of like I've met Maddie once. I lived like I'm down the street from Mark, so I see him when I'm working with him. Yeah, no, Lee's the one person like I think we've like followed each other on Twitter for like a year and a half. Never met him, and I'm pretty sure we live within 10 minutes of each other, which is
Crazy.
like that's the weird YouTube thing, right? Like
Yeah.
we're so literally just DM me. Literally we're all so close yet so far away from each other. We're like as much as you want to collab, it's like you just don't see them because you're busy with your own thing, right? But
Yeah.
I think once the collabs are happening, there's gonna be a point in YouTube where you're gonna see a lot of guys like almost not even in a malicious way. You're gonna see certain factions of YouTube, and like you're gonna see like certain friend groups kind of like collab with each other on certain things on YouTube, depending on like area or who knows who.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, it'll be cool. I think that's gonna be the next step is you're gonna see like different variations of production teams of YouTubers working on projects, and that's gonna
Yeah.
I'm excited about it. I keep talking about it, but that's gonna be the most interesting part of this platform.
It's gonna be like Marvel and DC coming together when Canada and US based
Yeah,
YouTuber
yeah, yeah.
cliques come together and
No, honestly, that's exactly what it's gonna be. And like
yeah.
the thing that gets me amped about that is that if you're somebody new that's coming in, you're going to understand the value of having a team with you.
Yeah.
Like if you're somebody that's completely brand new and you think you can do everything on your own, you're going to be able to watch like five or six guys, even three or four guys, decide to come up with an idea, crush it, make YouTube content about it. It's still going to involve gear, but it's also going to show you what you do with it, and it's going to show what different people do with it. And I don't know. There's some like as much as I'm super dissociated with the fitness industry a lot now it's created like the lesson I learned from there is that like you can tell people's content by even just like the way that they train. Like you might see somebody who trains a lot of like flexibility and gymnastics, and you're like, oh, you must watch X, Y, and Z. Like you're able to tell who those people are right away.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be a cool thing. Ever worked on any personal stuff for festival runs? No, I have not. I have not done any festival stuff. Um, I don't think I've actually been to a music festival, actually, now that I think about it. Caravana doesn't count. If you guys know what Caravana is, I don't know if it's a music festival, but I have not been to one. Uh, oh, hang on. Do you separate your daily camera package rate, or is that included? Um, yes, and sometimes. So sometimes I'll just put my camera package as like a single line item because the person on the other end doesn't care. They just want to get the job done. And I'll just put it as one line item. They just want to see something. Sometimes if there's a situation where like I have to do one or the other, which isn't that often, usually I put it in the same thing. But when that does arise, it does happen. Um, Out of nowhere island. I don't think there's. I think I caught up with any chats, or anything like that. Hang on. I want to see if I captured or got anything else inside of. Um, so Cam, you moved from another. So you moved from like the Ronin 4D, the FX6. What did those cameras outside of the file sizes not give you that made you get the Komodo X?
It all comes down to quality. Um, the 4D, I still have it. I love it. The rolling shutter, like that camera's more made for like maybe 40, 50 millimeters and wider. Once you go
Yeah,
tighter and you do any pans, the rolling shutter is like crazy on it. But it's a very useful camera for gimbal work specifically. Um, the FX6 was cool, but it took up majority of my bag. Having to use the top panel just to do audio on it. There was another thing about it where there was just a couple of things where I'm like, this is kind of becoming a like if I might have to rig this out regardless. Oh, still having to put a top monitor on it and then losing touchscreen unless you have two monitors on it at once. So
mm,
my mindset's like if I might have to rig out a camera, I might as well get better image quality.
yeah, that makes sense.
But that's just like once you get at these price points, like from the FX3 and up, like the image quality is very minimum that
Yeah,
you're going up, but that minimum quality difference you can stretch,
yeah,
and those instances when you really need it,
yeah,
and so yeah, it's just you guys have to try the Komodo X and compare it to your other cameras, and then you'll be like, oh, like there's just it looks very similar, but there's just something about the files that come out of this where you're just like this looks like what you see in films basically. I hate to describe it that way, but
yeah.
it's just that's the easiest way I can describe it. It's weird.
No, I kind of felt the same way. Like I felt when I was like using the more I like every time I kept using the FX6 and I always use it all the time. One, I just like I felt like I'm like, oh, we're doing the same song and dance again. Like I started getting a little bit like grown out of it every single time. But then there's like, oh, got to make sure I bring my audio top handle because there's no sound if it doesn't have one. Like it was like really it's really small things that weighed on me for over time. Like no one thing is a big like deal breaker, but there's just a bunch of like little things that I'm like, I don't I don't feel excited using this thing anymore.
Yeah.
And then you start looking elsewhere and like being like even testing the Ronin 4D, I was like, honestly, this camera is a sleeper. Like a lot of people are really gonna love it. There was some things that like I wasn't a giant fan of it where I would use it as an A camera. But for gimbal users, that thing's a slam dunk. But the same thing. You start to grow out and all the like that margin of quality between like the FX3 and going up isn't that big, but like you can stretch a 16-bit raw file. Like you can really
Yeah.
go after it.
Yeah.
Um, Last thing before we wrap up, because my laptop is dying. Um, how do you like the Komodo X so far? And what things are you looking forward to from a production side of things and also sharing stuff on YouTube?
Um, I absolutely, again, so I sent Kofi a preview of this little baby short film thing I made, and I've impressed the way it looks. And Armando was on that shoot, and he brought some of his homies along too. And it was very just kind of typical run and gun, having fun YouTube type BS. But the image quality we're getting out of it is just, it looks like a film. Um, and I probably wouldn't have filmed it like that on the FX3 or the FX6. I probably would have kept it more, kind of even more run and gun and not
Hmm.
really getting that visual. of a film in my mind that this puts me in. Um, but yeah, I mean, there's a lot of. I'm gonna be doing a full-on review of this. I'm gonna do a full-on rig breakdown because you guys see I'm obnoxious and pretentious, and I'm a creative, and so I like to have fun with my rigs, as Kofi was saying. Um, but yeah, there's just I want to start doing more narrative stuff. I want to start telling more stories. I want to shoot cinematic documentaries about indigenous people, and I want to be able to capture it in a cinematic way to where people will care. Because just putting that visual on them on a topic that they don't have any interest in, but they're like, oh, this looks cinematic. The next thing you know, they're listening to the story. That's what this camera's going to do for me. Whether it's just tweaking my mindset, which some people might think that's silly. That's just how I work. Or if it's the actual image quality that I'm getting out of it.
Yeah, no, that's
Yeah. And what about you, bro?
I'm there's two things I'm excited for. Like kind of the same thing, except I want to get into that whole like 2 to 4 to 5 minute commercial aesthetic. Being a former athlete, like I feel like there's a lot of like untold things about athletes that you don't really get that you don't get to hear. Also because they carry a certain mindset, like much like my mindset around YouTube is a lot of things that you'd find that pretty common amongst athletes in the sports that they play. So I really want to be able to bridge that gap using the KX. But there's also from a teaching aspect, because if I didn't play ball at the school that I went to, I would have ended up teaching. You wouldn't believe this. I was going to go to teachers college to teach primary school math.
Wow.
So like I really like teaching people and sharing those experiences, but I also want to experience enough things so it gives credence to teaching. So I split the channel up into three. So there's going to be videos where it's going to adhere to very beginner people, and that's why I got the A6700. I'm actually going to do a video where the point I'm making is the 6700 is so easy to use that I can get my girlfriend to do it. So we're going to do a collab. She's a TikTok creator, so I'm going to teach her how to use the A6700 to make her TikTok videos. But then the middle of the road are people that are using those like mid-tier cinema cameras, the FX3s, the Pocket 6Ks, and I'm going to use the FX30 to kind of experience those things. And that's kind of the jobs that I have now. I don't need a Komodo X. I hardly
Yeah.
needed an FX6 for the stuff that I needed. I just liked it. But then the stuff from like my passion projects and like flexing my DP muscles, that's the Komodo X, where it's not going to be super technical. Like I'm not going to teach you how to expose. You're going to learn that on the Komodo X through their free education. But like me talking about the personal stuff that I do, that's what I want to teach on there. So there's different varying levels of a type of filmmaker that'll come into the channel because the way that I look at my stuff is more of a library, right? And the library shouldn't only have books for a super advanced reading level. It should have stuff for pretty much everybody, so long as it's authentic to your personality and the stuff that you want to do. So that's what I'm excited. It also helps with like compartmentalizing video ideas. Now I don't need
Mm.
8 videos on the KX. I could have three for the FX30, three for the A6700, and three for the Komodo X. And some are going to be easier to make and also still be able to deliver a lot of value to people. And then I could use that money to invest back into making my own films on the KX, and it kind of all spins into itself. So that's kind of my thing.
Well, I'm excited to see the. Is it gonna be like sport documentaries or more
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go
narrative
sports.
stuff or?
I'm gonna go sports documentary, but I also think I'm gonna document when I go off the beaten path.
Hmm.
So like if I'm gonna shoot a music video, I'm gonna do a video. I'm like, I shot a music video, and this is what happened.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, I'm
really
excited to
want
see that.
to, and I hope he gets this at some point. But like, I want to do a music video, but I want YC Imaging to direct it. So that kind of
Ooh.
goes with that collab thing, right? You're meeting somebody where their specialty is, and you're like, yo, I'll DP it for you. I'll give it a shot. We'll see how it goes, right? And then you could talk about that experience from where people are at, and that's what I want to do. My long term for my channels, I think I want to be the cinematographer for everybody else's ideas, and
Yeah.
then I get to talk about being a DP. But like the challenge is, I don't have to think. I can't think of a cowboy shoot, so I have to go now
Yeah.
and like assume I'm the one that's learning, and then I got to go and learn from other people in terms of how they direct and work that way. I think that's going to be fun.
Yeah. I gotta get you down here, bro. I
Soon,
I,
man.
I want to see you near some bulls and some horses and see.
Soon, soon.
We gotta make that happen.
But yeah, man, my laptop is gonna die. We've also been
Yeah.
on the stream for like an hour and 10.
Oh
This is
wow.
gonna be.
Yeah.
I want to try this format more.
Yeah. Same.
I think I'm gonna do this a lot more. I'm gonna try to get like a bi-weekly live stream and just have different people talk about stuff. And I don't know. I think it's a lot easier to make. I now have an upload for the week, and I don't have to do any editing. So
Yeah.
uh,
Riverside. This whole setup is super sick too. Like it's super
yeah,
simple.
This is also dope too. So this is not an official integration. This isn't necessarily officially sponsored by Riverside, but we're actually recording all this on Riverside right now. And they just brought something in called Magic Clip. So AI is actually going to be able to cut this recording up into different sections that are interesting, and then you could export those by using the titles on there. And there's a text editor as well. So like, I think I could link this to you if you have a Riverside account, but I'm pretty sure I could send this to you and like all the cuts, and then that's all your YouTube shorts.
Oh, sick. Whoa.
So it'll be super dope. But guys, thank you so much. All there was at least there was up to 130 people here, which is dope for my
Dang,
first live
yeah.
stream. But if you guys want to see more of this kind of stuff, leave a comment when this is gonna get uploaded as a what I don't know, a video, I guess. But yeah, thanks Cam for coming through. We got to get more on these, man. We got to get more on these.
Yeah. Next
All
time
right.
we'll be in person.
Yes, sir.